Today's parsha is Vayetze, which means what? Anybody knows? Vayetze. To go out. Who leaves? Who's running away? Anybody remember from the previous Torah portion?
Isaac. No, I mean, Isaac's son, right.
Jacob. Yaakov is leaving because his mother Rivka says, listen, Esav, until Esav's anger is subsides, you need to leave because he wants to kill you. He's out to get you. And then she adds another line, and I'll tell you soon why this line is so important. She says, and then she repeats it, and she says, and until your anger subsides, go to my brother Lavan in Mesopotamia, in Iraq, part of Turkey, Haran. So here again we have Jacob returning, good morning, Jane, returning to Rivka's family, Lavan. So that's how the Torah portion begins. I want to read the opening lines. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana. And Yaakov, Jacob, leaves Beersheva, he leaves Israel, and he goes to Haran, back to Lavan, Rivka's brother. Something very strange happens in his journey. Vayifka ma'amakim, and he happened upon a place, Vayolan shan, and he slept there because the sun was setting. Vayikach me'avnei hamakim, and he took rocks from the area. Vayasamere shatav, and he surrounded his head with the rocks, like he built a little border around himself, especially around his head. Vayishka b'makom mahu, and he rested in that place. And he had a dream, the famous dream. Who knows what it is? It's a universal, became part of universal lore. But what's the dream? The famous what? Jacob's.
Mitchell told me.
Jacob's what?
Up and down the ladder.
Ladder, Jacob's ladder, the famous Jacob's ladder. So he has a dream. Listen to the dream. So he has a dream, a ladder, a giant ladder that it's connected to the ground and it goes all the way up to the heavens, to the sky. You can't even see the end of it. And what does he see in the dreams? What does he see in the dreams? Angels are going up and angels are going down. Now, first of all, let me ask you a question. Even though it's a dream, do angels need a ladder? They can fly up and down. And question, shouldn't angels first come down and then they go up? Because angels come from heaven, metaphorically speaking. Why does it say the angels go up and then the angels come down? First two questions of the day. Anybody know?
Go up first and then down. They should go down and then up.
Exactly. Why does it say they went up and then angels came down? Even though it's a dream, and you know what they say, dreams are not always disconnected from reality. But because it's the Torah, we question. So the commentaries say the angels who escorted Jacob from the land of Israel don't go past the border. They don't have passports to go over the border to Haran, to Turkey, to Iraq, to Mesopotamia. So they have to go back up. So they went back up. And then a new set of guardian angels came down. These are the angels that have the passport, so to speak, to cross the border. So that's a simple answer. There's a different set of armed guards, security detail that accompanies Yaakov on every leg of the journey. The ones that accompany him till the border and the ones that accompany him over the border. Simple reason, simple answer. But again, why do they need a ladder? They need a ladder to go up and down? They can fly. You know, we always envision angels have wings, right? Like in the movies, Michael, those big white fluffy wings, which may not be true, but anyway. So why do they need a ladder? Anybody have an idea, suggestion, an insight?
To bring people up and down? No.
Possibly.
Maybe the rungs in the ladder are steps that they have to take, keep it in order.
Very good. Okay. So the whole dream that occurs here is a definition of really how we view our relationship with God. Most of us look at ourselves and say, look, how can I ever connect to the divine? God is there. I'm here. God is in the spiritual worlds and realms. I'm in the physical world. How do I even bridge that gap between myself and God? In this dream, the Jacob ladder is symbolic of our connection to God. The ladder, the invisible ladder. This ladder shows us that God is attainable. God is relatable in a sense. We have a way up into the spiritual realms, metaphorically speaking. What is it? How do we climb the ladder? Anybody know? What is the key to climbing this ladder as mentioned in this Torah portion?
Oh, not tzedakah and good deeds.
No, tzedakah and good deeds are a way of climbing the ladder, but what specifically? Anybody know? There's one specific mitzvah in the Torah that we do every day that allows us to climb this ladder, that is symbolic of the ladder.
Oh, boy. Prayers?
Prayer. Because what does prayer come from? Tefillah comes from the word palel, to connect. How do we connect to the divine, to God? Through prayer. Now, Margaret was right. You connect through God also through doing mitzvahs, of course. But in this context of the ladder, climbing the ladder is through prayer. Prayer is called a ladder to the heavens, a ladder to the divine realm. Specifically, there's a story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, the great Baal Shem Tov, was known to pray very, very long. So all the congregants prayed along with the Baal Shem Tov. But there was one businessman who said to himself one morning, the Baal Shem Tov is going to take an awfully long time to do the silent devotion. You know, that's the prayer when you stand with your feet together. By the time Baal Shem Tov finishes, I could run into my store across the street of the shul. I'll quickly enact a little business. I'll make my deposits. I'll weigh my stuff. And by the time the Baal Shem Tov finishes his silent devotion, I'll be back. So sure enough, the Baal Shem Tov starts to pray the silent devotion and he sneaks out the back door. He runs into his shop. He does his business. Half an hour later, he comes back and he is so in shock. The Baal Shem Tov is standing there waiting for him. The minute he walks in, the Baal Shem Tov continues davening and finishes the prayers. At the end of prayer, the Baal Shem Tov goes over to him and he says to him like this: when you left the room, when you left the shul, I couldn't finish my prayers because every Jew who comes to pray is a rung in the ladder. If there's one rung missing in the ladder, I can't keep going. I can't reach the top. So when you left, one rung was missing. I had to wait for you to come back. When you came back, I was able to finish my prayers. So, of course, the guy felt very guilty, but then he understood the Baal Shem Tov didn't pray a long time because he wanted to create tension for the people, but because it is work to get up that ladder. It requires an effort. And when you're davening in shul with other congregants, with other Jews, they help you climb the ladder. Each Jew is another rung in the ladder, men, women, and children. This is the concept of the ladder. The ladder is prayer. How do we connect to God through prayer? Now, you might say, well, listen, I'm not a big holy roller. I don't even read Hebrew. I'll tell you another story. So there was a fellow, a scholar, who used to take a walk in the woods every day. And he would pass a farm. And he would see the farmer doing his farm work, feeding the cows and cutting the wheat. And he would hear the way the farmer is saying, God, today, give me rain. God, today, make my wife feel better. God, today, I need a little this, I need a little that. After a month of listening to the prayers of the farmer, he says to the farmer, what kind of prayers are these? What are you saying every day? Why don't you take out a prayer book and pray like a mensch? So the farmer got very upset. He says, Rabbi, I'm sorry, but I'm the son of a farmer. I'm the grandson of a farmer, and we never learned to read Hebrew. So I say my own little prayers. I'm sorry if I'm sinning. He says, well, if I teach you the prayers, will you say them every day? He says, of course, would you do that for me? And every day the scholar would come and teach him the prayers by singing with him. Modani Shema Yisrael. And the farmer was so touched, and he began memorizing the prayers. And when the lessons were over, he began to pray. But it was from memory because he couldn't read. So slowly but surely, in the beginning, he remembered everything. So he would sing all the prayers. But slowly but surely, as time progresses, he begins to forget. And by the end of a few months, he stops praying because he forgets. He couldn't remember. The teacher, the scholar, has a dream. God says to him in the dream, why did you take away the prayers of my farmer? What right did you have to take away the prayers of my farmer? The lesson is that whatever way you pray, you could pray in your own language. If it comes from the heart, if it's your way of connecting to God, who is to say your words are better than my words? Just because I'm praying from a Hebrew prayer book and I seem to know it all, your prayer with your heart, my prayer from my heart, is more valuable to God than anything else in the universe. And God waits for our prayers. It's like conversation. You know what? Women always have a complaint, right? My husband never wants to talk to me. He has no time. He doesn't want to chat with me, doesn't want to gossip with me. It's like my husband. I say, Shia, can we talk? He says, of course. He sits down on the couch. 5 minutes later, he looks at his watch. Are we done? Are we done? Women, we want to talk because we want to talk. Men want to know, what's the problem? Why do you want to talk? Did something happen? What's wrong? We don't have enough money in the day. What's the problem? They always want to know why you want to talk. We want to talk because we want to talk. It's a way of expressing ourselves. So when God hears your conversation to God, whatever you want to say, God loves it. Because it's you conversing to God, you taking time out of your busy, hectic life to speak to the divine. That's what the ladder is. It shows us that this is how we connect to God. It's a ladder. It's our ladder to heaven. You could set up a ladder anywhere in your house. Anywhere you pray, you're setting up that ladder. There was a teacher that asked the students a question. Who's higher, the guy on top of the ladder or the guy on the bottom of the ladder? So all the students said, of course, the guy on the bottom of the ladder the guy on the top of the ladder is the highest. And the teacher said, no, it depends what direction they're going. If you're going up, doesn't matter where you are, you're the highest. If you're going down, means you're lower. It depends what direction you're taking. So if you're always going up, 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 you're higher than the guy who's always going down, 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 because we always have to climb higher, 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 higher on our ladders. And that's why, you know, that famous Chinese proverb, what did they say? Let me read. Oh, yeah. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's what it is. The ladder is that single step that you take to go up. One more, a very interesting story is that there was a guy, Reb Zusha Anapol, and before services, he would go immerse in the mikvah, in the spring of water. But to get to that spring of water, you had to climb this very treacherous mountain. If you didn't climb the treacherous mountain, you had to walk for another hour. So all of the other Jews would say, Zusha, how come you climb the mountain on the most treacherous winter days when it's snowy and icy and you never fall? We're so scared to go on this mountain. We always take the long way. And he said in Yiddish, and I'll translate, As mis verbunden von eben, fällt mir nicht unten. If you're connected to the above, you don't fall down below. That's the concept of ladder. If you're connected to the divine, you're going up the ladder, you're not going to fall down the ladder. You're going to keep going up and up. But if you start looking down and wondering, am I too high? Could I fall? Don't look down. Always look up. Always look up. That's the story of the ladder. So prayer is the way we connect to God, and God waits for our prayers. That's why in last week's discussion, we said, why did God make the matriarchs have such a hard time giving birth? Sarah, Rivka, and now Rachel, we're going to hear about it shortly. Why? Because God, one of the commentaries says that God wanted their prayers. The prayers are so precious to God, God wanted their prayers. This is one explanation. So to close up this topic for now, I want to just share with you an insight I just thought of. I want to share. In the morning, there's one prayer we say when we sit up in our beds. Who knows? Modani, right? Modani lefanecha melechai. The minute we wake up, before we wash our hands, we thank God for giving us back our souls. The first thing, it's a prayer, one-liner. We thank God for giving us back our souls. The minute you wake up, you right away say a prayer. Why? What's the significance of this? Maybe take a shower, brush your teeth. Who has a conversation with someone before you brush your teeth? But the morning prayer is already climbing up that ladder, the first rung. The minute you open your eyes and you put your hands together like this and you say Modani to God, you are already defining your life, your day, your hour, your minute. What are you saying? God, listen, I'm going shopping now. You know, I need to get my new Chloe bag. I need to buy groceries. I need to take the kids to school. I need to go to work. I'm a day trader. I need to sell. I need to buy. I'm IT. But before you go on your hectic, realistic physical life, you already started to climb up the ladder by saying that prayer to God. So your whole day is defined by that divine connection. Now, whatever you do, you can do no wrong. Whatever you do, even the most mundane thing, your laundry, your shopping, is now a divine connection because you started your day with connecting to the divine. After all, God put us in this world. We have to do what we have to do. You can't just sit around saying, I'm praying, I'm swaying. What am I saying? That's the joke about prayer. Praying, swaying. What am I really saying? But anyway. So Modani is the secret to waking up and feeling good about your day. Because sometimes you wander aimlessly and you feel, what did I do today? Why do I feel so empty today? Think back. Did you take a moment to connect to your divine soul? Did you take a moment to connect to God? Because that little connection changes your whole outlook, changes your whole demeanor, the way you think, the way you feel. Try it. Tell me if it works. Try it. Try waking up every morning and saying Modani in English, in Hebrew, in Chinese, in French, any language. See if that changes your whole paradigm.
Sort of grounds you.
Pardon?
Sort of grounds you for the whole day.
Exactly. You know, a power couple came to see the Rebbe with their children when the Lubavitch Rebbe took audiences. And they everything is perfect in their lives. They're wealthy, they're attractive, the children are healthy, and they're well-adjusted. Everything is good. So at the end of the audience, the Rebbe gave them blessings and spoke to them. The wife and the children left the room, and the husband said, Rebbe, I'm empty. I feel empty. I don't know what's wrong. I'm successful. I'm wealthy. I'm on the board of all these great organizations. I feel wealthy. I feel empty every day. What should I do? And the Rebbe said, Do you take time every single day to connect to your soul? He says, Rebbe, I just told you, I'm the CEO of a company. I sit on different boards. I'm a very busy man. When I retire, I promise you I'm going to be a better Jew. I'm going to get going on those mitzvahs. The Rebbe said, take a few minutes every day to pray and do a mitzvah and connect to your soul. And instead of life controlling you, you will be in control of life. You have to take the reins to your connection. Say one prayer when you wake up in the morning and you're in control. Instead of the forces of life controlling you, you're in control of the forces in your life. That's the secret to the ladder. So when you daven, think of yourself like I'm climbing up this ladder. And now let's go back to the story. So Yaakov, he haps upon a place. He has a dream in this place. He prays and institutes the evening prayer in this place. What is this place? Anybody can guess? What is this place in the future generations? The holiest place of all. Where is that divine holy place? What gets built in this place?
The temple.
The temple, the Beit HaMikdash. This place that he haps upon, of course, by divine providence, ends up being the place where God builds the Beit HaMikdash. The ultimate ladder to heaven, the Beit HaMikdash. The ultimate ladder to heaven is the place of the Beit HaMikdash. So it's all tied in because that's where the most revealed God state was expressed in the Beis HaMikdash, in the first Beis HaMikdash, in the second Beis HaMikdash, and God willing, Mashiach comes in the third holy temple. So it's not coincidental that he comes to a place. And one more interesting tidbit before we go into the very controversial parts of the Torah portion is it starts off by saying he collected a bunch of rocks to put around his head, right? In the middle of the night, wild animals can attack. So he built like a little fortress around his head. And it says he collected the rocks. The Medrash says a very interesting thing. All the rocks had a fight. I want to be on his head. I want to be around his head. I want to be around his head. It was a war of the rocks. It's called the War of the Rocks. They all fought. Everyone wanted Jacob's head to rest on them. They knew he's a special person. Now look what happens after.
Is that why we get Jacob's pillow?
Oh, very good idea. Is there a Jacob's pillow now?
There's something, right? A concert or something? Yeah.
So now, possibly, look what happens. Vayashkem Yaakov baboker vayikach es ha'oven asher samer reshatov. He wakes up in the morning and he takes the rock away from his head and he builds an altar with it to bring an offering to God. But didn't it say at the beginning that before he went to sleep, he took meltable rocks? Is there a mistake in the Torah passage? It says one rock. What happened to the other rocks? Anybody know? Anybody can guess? Harry Potter.
Did they all create one?
Excellent. The commentaries say there was a miracle, and when God saw all the rocks fighting, he created one giant rock of all the rocks. Why? And look, and also think about it. The Torah, couldn't it focus on more important things? We said the Torah is so concise, it only puts in what's a lesson for us. So that obviously talking about the rocks, the inanimate, has a lesson here. Anybody can think about it. What is the sequel to Jewish survival?
Well, you're stronger together.
Excellent. Achdus Yisrael, unity. When you have one pillow, as Margaret mentioned, no one is fighting because it's one pillow. Whether you put your head on the right of the pillow, the left of the pillow, the center of the pillow, it's one pillow. When it's many pillows, the pillows might all be fighting. I want to be under his head. I want to be under his head. I want to be the one. So God is showing us that if you could take the diversity of mankind and this could be a universal message, and create unity, then it doesn't matter that one person is victorious. Everyone is then victorious. But when you look at yourself, I'm Diane, I'm Freida, I'm Margaret, I'm Masha, I'm Jane, and we have nothing to do with each other, and we're all dog eats dog. It's a fight to the finish line. But when we're all together, if Jane ends up at the finish line first, we're all one. United as one, that's the point. We're in it together. So if you look at everything from very materialistic, I have to be the wealthiest, richest, prettiest, nicest, smartest, then yeah, it's a competition. But if you look that my success will help everyone else's success, and we're in it together, that we're one people, one mind, one heart, that's the key. Then it doesn't matter who gets the side of the pillow. We're one pillow. We're one rock. United, that's the strength of the Jewish people. The minute there's a fight, look what happened. The destruction of this first temple was not, and second temple was not because they worshipped idolatry. God said, you worship idolatry. Okay, it really kills me. It pains me, but I'm not destroying my temple over that. What caused the destruction? Hate among the Jewish people, that they weren't united. When the children fight, the parents are demolished. That's the worst pain, when your children can't get along, when your people are not one. When there's hate and there's strife and jealousy and destruction among your people, that's the worst. That God said, I can't tolerate. I cannot be resting here anymore with such hate. So what God is saying, for many, we always have to become one. One rock, one Beit HaMikdash, one united people. That is our strength. And what unites us is the Torah and God. Otherwise, what else do we have in common? We're all so different. The divine soul unites us. We're all the same. How do you know it? Go take a plane to Turkey and find another Jew and say to that Jew, do you have Shabbos candles? Jew will say, of course I have Shabbos candles. Shabbos is for everywhere you go, this Shabbos. A man will go to another man. Rabbi Lau told the story at one of my father's memorial lectures. He says, you get off a plane and you meet another Jew. You say, I forgot to bring my tefillin. You have a pair of tefillin? Out he pulls a pair of tefillin. The universal message of Jews meeting other Jews is just say Shabbos, just say challah, just say tefillin. Of course, it's the universal language. No one's going to say, well, I'm Latin. What do you mean by Shabbos? Or I'm Chinese. What do you mean by Shabbos? If you're a Chinese Jew, a Latin Jew, a Greek Jew, an Italian Jew, doesn't matter. We all have the universal language. That's our language, the Torah. It's the universal. I was in Israel with a group years ago. There was a bar mitzvah, and we went touring. And everywhere I met Jews from Brooklyn, New York, that spoke Yiddish. So I spoke Yiddish to them. And then they came back from Israel, the family. They were family from West, but they go, Freida and the rabbi know everybody in Israel. So I laughed. I said, no. We don't know anybody in Israel. We really don't know. But what we do know is the universal language of the Jew. Was machst du? Shalom Aleichem. Where can I bet? I'm good kishke. That's why we know everybody. It's not that we know them. We know them because they're Jews and we're Jews. And that's the universal language. That's the one rock wherever you go. You can't change it. So they took such pride that we're so popular. We weren't so popular. But you speak the Mama Lashon. I'll tell you this cute story, then we'll go on. So I'm in Wilton. I'm running an errand. And I see two Hasidic guys coming out of a store with lineup, the whole bar. So they're looking at me. Why am I looking at them? So I say to them in Yiddish, was tust du da in Wilton? Was kommt da reich in Wilton? Why are you in Wilton? They came over. They started to chat with me. I spoke the language. Before they're like, who's this lady? Why is she looking at us? Why is she staring? I only stared because I'm like, what? Do Hasidim in Wilton? They said, yeah, we have business here. We sell this guy jewelry. I said, they're good. I said, come to shul. You can daven with us if you need something to eat. And they were saying, yeah. Anyway, very good. So that's the universal language of Jews. We get each other because we're from the same tribe. And I'm saying tribe in a very complimentary way. So does anybody want to add anything, say anything?
Sure. When I heard many stories like this, a woman I know who actually brought the muumuu, invented the muumuu gown, this wonderful woman. When she was young, she was in South America. She just went, it was the 60s, and she had nowhere to stay, and she went to different hotels, and she's speaking to this one clerk, and there was no room at the inn, and somehow in the conversation, he said, "Landsman?" And he was a Jew, and she was a Jew, and he goes, "Oh," and he helped her, and it was just, it is that connection if you ever need help anywhere. So it's a wonderful thing.
How good and how pleasant it is to be with our brothers or sisters together. That's really what it is. So let's all start on our ladders. Pray one little prayer in the morning. It really changes your day. I was very down and out one day this week, whatever, little silly things. And I said, I didn't say my morning prayers, the whole morning prayers. We're not talking about that one line. And I quickly pulled out my siddur. And you know what? At the end of it, I'm not being facetious. I felt much better. I felt like now I put myself a little bit more in God's hands. Because in the prayers, it says, keep me away from people who cause trouble. Give me wealth. Give me a good day. The prayers are really asking for the most material, mundane things. And we praise God in the prayers. And we ask for things. And we pray about the Jewish people. It has so many different parts to the prayers. It even has atonement. I like that part. I always feel better after I bang my chest a couple of times. Jewish women, we love guilt, We're guilted about everything. Okay. So now the plot thickens. Everybody good? We're going too fast? Okay. The plot thickens now, and now we come to a very, very fascinating, but also controversial story. Jacob arrives in Haran, and he goes to the where? What's the hangout?
Well,
The well. You're always going to the well. And he spots love at first sight. He spots the beautiful Rachel, who happens to be his first cousin. Remember? His mother is Rivka. Her brother is Laban. And he has Rachel. Leah and Rachel are his daughters, two of his daughters. And Jacob haps upon the beautiful Rachel at the well. And he wants to marry her. He falls in love. She takes him back to the house. And he says to his uncle, Lavan, I want to marry your daughter, Rachel. He says, sure. You'll settle here. You can marry her. But in exchange for marrying her, you have to work for me for 7 years. You have to commit to a 7-year contract as one of my shepherds. And of course, Yaakov says yes. Okay? Now, Yaakov knows his uncle is no honest fellow. So he says to Rachel before the wedding, I'm going to give you signs. Under the chuppah, when we come to the wedding ceremony, the face is covered over, as the tradition is. If you give me the signs, I know it's you. If you don't give me the signs, I know it's not you. Okay? What happens? Rachel, and we'll discuss why, gives her sister Leah, her older sister, the signs.
Oh, no.
And the wedding ceremony happens. Let me get very important to get my paperwork out. And sorry, give me a second. And what happens when he wakes up? Okay, Mom, sorry. I want to read it inside so you know what happens here. Hold on. I could find it quickly. Okay, hold on. Vayhi baboker. He wakes up in the morning. Vihina hi Leah. So he's intimate with supposedly Rachel, right? They get married. They come into the dark tent. He has intimacy with his new wife. And when he wakes up in the morning, who's in his tent? Lo and behold, everybody, Leah. So he goes to his father-in-law. He says to Lavan, I told you I would work for 7 years for Rachel, not Leah. So what does Lavan tell him? Remember, we discussed it last week. You're talking about deception. Who's the king of deception? You. Look what you did to your brother Esau. You deceived your father. You took away the blessings. So you're one to talk. You're telling me I'm deceptive. You're deceptive. He tells him. So now he says to Yaakov, you want to marry Rachel? He says, yes. He says, so commit to another 7 years. You're going to work 7 years for Leah. Now you're going to work for 7 years for Rachel. And he says, and you know, another thing I want you to know, he tells him, in our community, the younger sister doesn't marry before the older sister. So why did you even think that I would allow you to marry Rachel in front of Leah? He tells him. So Yaakov commits to another 7 years. A week later, he marries Rachel. After Sheva Brachas, after the 7 nuptials, you know, the custom. So there has to always be a break between, in one family, a simcha, joyous occasion. So now he has 2 wives. He has Leah, who he married first, and now he marries Rachel, the one who he falls in love with at the well. Right? Okay. Look what happens now. I want to read it. Yeah, we have to read it inside. Vayavai. Now he marries Rachel. Vayavai gam el Rachel. And Jacob is intimate with his wife Rachel, right? He marries her. He's intimate with her. Vayehav gam es Rachel. And he also loved Rachel, Rachel. Mileah. He loved Rachel more than Leah, it says in the pasuk. This is straight from the Torah. And he worked with him yet another 7 years. So it's saying he worked for 7 years. Now look what happens. Vayar Hashem, and God saw Kisanua Leah, that Leah was hated. Vayiftach es rachma, so he opened her womb so she could give birth. In other words, so she could get pregnant with Yaakov. Rachel akara, but Rachel was barren. Like we said, Rachel wasn't able to conceive so easily. Now let's continue. So Leah is pregnant, and she conceived and bore a son, and she named him Reuven. Why? Because the Lord has seen my affliction. Now my husband will love me. And then she conceived a second child, and she gave birth to a son, and she said, since the Lord has heard that I am hated, he gave me the second son, and she named him Shimon. Okay? This is 4 passages that are very, very, very controversial. The Torah says that God saw that Yaakov hated Leah, right? First of all, the Talmud clearly says, if you hate your spouse and your spouse hates you, either or, you have to get divorced. It is horrible, detrimental to your psyche, to your health, to mental state to remain married to someone you despise and hate. It's unacceptable. The Torah tells you, you hate him, you hate her, get divorced. You should not be miserable in your marriage. And especially if you have children, the impact on the children and the family if the parents hate each other. So the Torah clearly tells you, you cannot stay in a marriage of hate. Why doesn't Yaakov divorce Leah? You hate her? Divorce her. What's this? God saw that he hated her? Right? Is everyone agreed this is a question or not?
Did it say that he hated her, or did it say he loved Rachel more?
Ah, very good, Jane. Very good. It says both. It said, very good, Jane. Oh my gosh, brilliant. Exactly. So now I'm going to ask you a question. And now I'm going to give you 4 perspectives. We're going to literally build and go deeper, 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 deeper on what it's talking about. First, we're going to go a little superficial, deeper, deeper, and then we're going to do the Kabbalistic insight because it's I think it's amazing. So let me just go back with Jane. Jane said exactly what the pasuk says. He also loved Rachel more than Leah. So the pasuk is saying it's not that he didn't love Leah, he loved Rachel more. Is that clear to everybody? Exactly what Jane said. It didn't say that Yaakov hated Leah. It says he loved Rachel more. Now, someone could love 2 people, and you could love one wife more than the other. Doesn't mean now he hates her. Very good, Jane. Very, very, very brilliant catch on the pasuk. Because when I read it, I didn't get it, by the way. I had to read the commentaries. So now let me start with this being Jane already brought it to the forefront. So we're going to build on 4 brilliant commentators. We're going to start with the first one. Okay? The Radak says something beautiful. It says he loved Leah, but not as much as Rachel. Not as intense as Rachel. So that's what the passage is saying. It's not saying he hated Leah. It's saying he didn't love her as intensely as Rachel. So then why does it say in the next passage that God saw that Jacob hated her, right? So if we use this answer from the Radak, that there was more love towards one wife, right? It's a big jump to say he hated her. There's one thing to say, I love you and I love you more. But there's a big jump to say, but he hated her. So the Radak says the word hate here in biblical terms doesn't mean hate. It means to love less intensely. It's not like you and I talk to each other and, you say, Margaret, I hate burgers. I hate that guy. He's vicious. In the biblical context, the Radak, this great commentary says, it's sinna in this term, in this context, in this sentence means he loves less intensely. That's how he justifies the contradiction of the passages. That's what the Radak says. And also, Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch adds another interesting little thing. I'll share it with you because it is interesting. Jacob knew what really went on. What really went on? Lavan comes to Leah before the wedding and says, you're going to let your younger sister get married before you? It's unacceptable. In our community, that doesn't happen. He coerced her into taking her sister's place. She didn't want to. So why did Rachel give her the signs? Because what would happen? Lavan would force Leah to go to the marriage ceremony, right? Disguised under the veil. And when Yaakov would ask for the signs, she wouldn't know them and she would be humiliated. Rachel is so sensitive to her sister that she gives her the signs, but she knew that the humiliation would be unacceptable. It would be horrible for her. She knew that Leah was going to be put in her place because her father laid down the law. And in those days, what the father said, the father went. That's it. We're not talking about 2021 here. They could behead you if you don't listen to them. So she knew her sister was going to take her place, but she didn't want her sister to be humiliated in the process. So she gives her the signs. That justifies why Rachel gives Leah the signs. You see who Rachel really is. She's not just an ordinary lady. She's a matriarch. She will sacrifice her own husband, her future husband, her own chassan, because she does not want the humiliation of her older sister. So Jacob knew that Leah didn't just jump onto the wedding ceremony just to hurt him, just to deceive him. He knew that she had no choice. So you cannot say he hated her because he empathized with her in a sense. Sorry, go ahead, Jane.
But wouldn't Leah have felt that, and maybe she would have felt hated even though it wasn't his fault, it wasn't her fault, it wasn't Rachel's fault, but she still felt hated. From her perspective, she was the hated one.
Very, very good. Very good. And that's
So
going
it
to
was
be the
painful for her. Yeah.
yes. So so that's a very good point. And can I take your point, which is the next level of the analysis of the situation, where Or HaChaim discusses what Jane just said. Jane, did you prepare this class before? Very good. Very, very good. You made a very powerful point, and I want to build on your point in the next commentator. So now let us clarify. The Radak says it's not that she was hated, it's just he loved Rachel more intensely. That's how he justifies these passages. And the Shimshon Rafal Hirsch says, yeah, Jacob was empathetic towards Leah, knowing it was out of her control. It's not like she intentionally deceived him. So therefore, he couldn't have hate for her. Yes, sorry.
Does it say that he hated her, or is it just that it says that Leah thinks he hated her?
Well, now we're going to go into that.
Okay.
So there's two important questions here. Did Leah feel hated, even though she may not have been hated? Like perception? Like you think to yourself, oh, my mother hates me. She likes my older sister better. She likes my brother better. Sometimes it's what you're thinking is what you're asking, right, Margaret?
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying is now what we're going to go to the next level, the Or HaChaim. The Or HaChaim. Now, I want to point out the Or HaChaim commentator lived before Sigmund Freud. So you can't say he was a student of Sigmund Freud, so he knew this.
I have a question.
Yes.
So
Go.
why didn't the father marry Leah to someone else? Why did he have to go with Yaakov, the love of his younger daughter?
Very good. Two reasons. He knew the who Yaakov was from a wealthy aristocratic family. And let me tell you another thing. Leah was meant to marry Esau. The older sister, the older brother Esau. The younger sister Rachel, the younger brother Yaakov. You're muted. Say that again.
He didn't get the blessing. His
Exactly.
father wanted the son with the blessing.
Now, Leah saw that Rachel's marrying Yaakov, and that means she's going to marry Esau. She cried the night before the wedding because she did not want to marry Esau. And the Kabbalah says she was meant to marry. I'm just bringing it up because you brought it up now. She was meant to marry Esau. Why? Her capabilities, Leah, her power, her character was so strong, she would have been able to transform Esau into a leader of the Jewish people. She would have changed him. And she didn't want to take on that responsibility. And she reneged on it. And she did not take on her destiny, so to speak. And that's why later, we're not going to talk about it today, what happens to Dinah happens to Dinah. No good deed goes unpunished. Yaakov, though, was right, as we discussed last month, to take the blessing from his brother. He had to with self-sacrifice. He was not meant to be the king and the scholar. Remember, we discussed it last week, right? Everybody remembers? He had to. But again, no good deed goes unpunished. He's now deceived. He deceived, it comes back to haunt him. Because Yaakov is the patriarch of the Jewish people, the next patriarch, every little speck has to be accounted for. It's not like you and I make a mistake. Okay. The patriarchs, everything they do is accountable. He deceived his brother. Now he suffers the consequences in his marriage. You know, if you're wearing a beautiful, beautiful white dress and a sprinkle of grape juice gets on you, it shows up. If you're wearing a purple dress or a red dress and someone gives a little spritz of mustard, not so terrible. Look at the matriarchs and patriarchs as the white. Everything shows up. You can't just tell a little white lie because, okay, I'm saving my people. It's self-sacrifice. It doesn't matter. You're always accountable when you're a matriarch and patriarch. That's why they're the matriarchs and patriarchs. People say, why them? because they're able to handle the challenges and rise to the occasion. Yaakov had a very, very, very tough life, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so now let's go to the second analysis. Now the Orach Chaim, who was born before Sigmund Freud, so you see, based on Torah, our great sages and commentaries, they know psychoanalysis. They know the workings of the ego and the id. They know the inner workings of humanity based on Torah. Now the Orach Chaim says something spectacular. Look what it says. And God saw that Leah was hated, so he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Who saw that Leah was hated?
Said God.
God. God. It doesn't say in the passage, and Jacob hated Leah. It says Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. But it doesn't say in the next passage that Yaakov hated Leah. God saw that Leah was hated. What does that mean that God saw it? That there are times in our lives, there is something subconsciously hidden. Who sees it? God knows. We don't even realize it about ourselves. Exactly what James said. Subconsciously, Jacob had a resentment towards Leah because she deceived him and he wanted to marry Rachel. He didn't even know it. And because he felt it, Leah felt it subconsciously. You know, sometimes you walk away, you think, she doesn't like me. What did you do to her? I didn't do anything to her. She doesn't like me. I just could feel it. Subconsciously, the Orach Chaim says, Jacob, of course, felt a deep, buried, maybe anger, resentment towards Leah, but he didn't even know it. It was buried deep in his subconscious, and then thus buried deep in Leah's subconscious. God points it out to us. Why does God point it out to us? I'll tell you why. God saw Leah was hated. God saw what was buried in the subconscious of Rachel, of Jacob and Leah. God saw it, and God points it out in the pasuk. God wants us to know that there are times, there are things buried deep within our subconscious that we don't even know about. By God writing this in the Torah, God could have left this out. God is telling us, hey, everybody, you know, there are times things that are buried so deep inside of you, you don't even know it. You don't even realize it. Until, who knows, sometimes, you know, like PSDS, suddenly at weird times, it comes out. It could come out when you're in your 90s. It could come out when you have your first child. It can come out when you get married. Things buried that suddenly pop out. And we go, oh my gosh. So the Orach Chaim is pointing out the subconscious feelings that we may not even know about.
All right, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Please. No, I love questions.
So Sigmund Freud was a Jew. Maybe he got this from the Torah?
Okay, there you go. Very good. What I'm pointing out is that people say he was the creator of the psychoanalysis. The truth is he wasn't. Orach Chaim discussed subconscious way before he even wrote his first book. By the way, his name was Shlomo Freud. Sigmund Freud's Hebrew name was Shlomo. I just want to build one more point. Another very powerful insight. And God saw that Leah was hated. Means God, right? But the Kabbalah says, and the Orach Chaim emphasizes this. Bear with me because it's a little bit of the God within them saw that Leah was hated. Jacob's divine soul, his divine presence, his neshama felt a hate towards Leah. A very subtle, subconscious. So building on the subconscious is deep down. The divine part of Yaakov felt a dislike for Leah because she deceived him. He didn't even know it consciously. Subconsciously, the God within him felt the dislike. And then Leah felt it because he felt it, subconsciously. So building on the last point of the Or HaChaim. So this is the second analysis of what happens. It's not even anything Jacob or Leah feels or knows because they're not so in touch with their subconscious yet. They don't know it. So that's what the Or HaChaim says. Very, very, very insightful. So many times you have unresolved emotions and they come out at weird times. But knowing that there's unresolved emotions makes us sometimes come to terms with our unresolved emotions when they come out. We have to come to terms with it eventually. Because at the end of the day, it will come out somehow, some way, right? Nothing stays buried forever. My mother said to me an interesting observation. She says, some elderly, they come to shul or you meet them and they're always bitter and angry. They hate the kids. The kids are noisy. They push away the young. My mother says, those people, this is my mother's analysis, are bitter as young people. So when they got older, it just came out. But then you have some elderly people always smiling, happy. They love the kids. The kids can never make enough noise for them. They love it. They love the young. They never connect. You know why? They were young. My mother says they were happy people. When they get older, nothing is coming out from the subconscious. They didn't have that subconscious feeling of anger and resentment. So sometimes these unresolved emotions and issues come out later in life. And then we have to confront them because why am I angry? Nothing happened today. Yeah, nothing happened today. You know what? 20 years ago it happened. So the Or HaChaim is pointing this out based on this Torah passage that we have to be aware that there's unresolved emotions. Everybody has them. Or maybe not you, but I know I do. Maybe nobody here in the class. And now the Ramban, and then we're going to do the Kabbalistic insights. The Ramban says something that's painful. The Ramban says, listen, the truth of the matter is God saw that Leah was hated, and Ramban says that's right. Yaakov was very angry and very upset with Leah. He was. Ramban says we can't deny it. But what happens? The passage then says she gives birth to number one son. She gives birth to number two sons. She starts giving birth to she gives birth to Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zevulun. And now Yaakov looks at Leah and says, oh my gosh, she's given me such beautiful, gorgeous, happy, wonderful children. How can I have those feelings towards her? It's crazy. And he begins to love her because he realizes, look what she gave me. She is responsible for these beautiful, healthy, happy, smart, kind children. So he changes. So initially, yeah, he might have had the feelings of dislike towards Leah. But then when she gives him all these beautiful children, she's so noble, he realizes, wow. So initially, yeah, he wants to divorce her. He's thinking, yeah, let me divorce her. But then she gives him the beautiful children. He says, the Medrash says, how can I divorce the mother of these beautiful angelic children? And it brings him to love her. And another commentary, Magdala Mukha says something, and then we're going to go to the last point, is he says that you see that, again, everything comes to the forefront. Because what happens with Joseph, who's the son of Rachel, and the other boys who are the sons of Leah? They sell Joseph into slavery, right? They're jealous of him. They say, what do they say? Yaakov loves Joseph because he's the son of the beloved wife Rachel. Our mother was disliked because she deceived our father. He doesn't like us. He's going to cut us out of the will. He's going to give everything to Yosef. And so they sell him into slavery. So though Yaakov resolves his issues in a sense with Leah, right? He makes peace with it, right, Jane? He makes peace with right? He makes peace with Leah. The children feel it. And we see what they act out later in the story. They feel that their father doesn't truly love them as much as he loves Joseph. So though, again, that's what I meant about that the subconscious comes out. So though Jacob said, listen, I made peace with the fact that she deceived me. I really wanted Rachel. I ended up with Leah and then Rachel. He makes peace with it, but his children don't. They're still living with the pain that their mother was the less loved one. Reality, real life, real emotions, real reactions. And again, God puts this all in here for us to learn and see what happens. But it's showing the strength of Yaakov, Rachel and Leah. It's not showing how that they're terrible people. No, no, no. It's showing how life comes full circle and how you deal with these challenges. How they deal with it is a lesson to us. And now we're going to go into the metaphysical. Every one of these commentators, there's a whole discussion. But I wanted to give you a taste of how they're looking at what goes on, okay? You understand what I was trying to do? Giving you a little bit of, now we're going to go into the metaphysical. Because like we always discuss, the Torah has many layers. And every layer is there to teach us. But now we have to go into the Zohar, the book of splendor, the book of Kabbalah, based on something that the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, founder of Chabad Hasidism, Jewish mysticism, writes about this. Something spectacular. Everybody who gets married, we're going to use the woman as an example because it's Rachel, marries a Rachel and a Leah. Every person ends up with a Rachel and a Leah in their marriage. You date a person, they're beautiful, they're gorgeous, they're smart, they're witty, they're dressed to kill, gorgeous figure, everything you want in your spouse. And it could be, you can use it in the male form or the female. We all come home with a Rachel. We all fall in love with the Rachel. Rachels means a ewe, E-W-E, a sheep. What's a sheep? It's a gentle, beautiful, fluffy, soft-spoken animal. As a matter of fact, the word you, the numerical value of Rachel is 238, which is the same numerical value of Vayehi Or, let there be light. So Rachel represents light, beauty. I married the perfect girl. What happens 5 years, 1 year down the line? You wake up and you see who's in your bed. Leah. She gained 5 pounds. She didn't straighten her hair. She's not wearing makeup. She's not always so witty, by the way. He's not always so smart. You wake up with Leah. You wake up with real life. What's Leah? What does the word Leah mean? Leah comes from the word liut, exhaustion. or nila. In other words, you wake up with Leah. Every person marries a Rachel and a Leah, all wrapped up in one. It's the dream of who I'm going to marry, and it's the reality of who you end up with. The Zohar is saying. When Yaakov marries 2 women, they embody the real metaphysical, what exists in our lives. But now the plot thickens. Kabbalah says, Leah is Olam Deskasya, the concealed world. Rachel is Olam Desgalia, the revealed world. You see what you get? The beautiful Rachel. And then the concealed comes out, the Leah. The Leah who perplexes you. The Leah who confuses you. The Leah who challenges you. The Leah say, listen, I'm going to the bar for a drink. She's going to drive me crazy today when I come home from work. She's going to ask me what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, why I'm not doing. It's the wife that challenges you, but has the babies, gives birth to your birth and rebirth, allows you to grow and not stay status quo. The Leah, the concealed world is what challenges you to become better in your life. That's why you don't like it. No one wants to be told you're imperfect. You need to change. You need to grow. You need to confront your issues. You run away from that. The Leah is the part of you that you want to hide from. You hate it because you fear it. The Kabbalah explains. The Rachel is, of course, the perfect revealed world. Everything, you come home, there's never a complaint. There's never a challenge. Nothing is ever bad. Everything is perfect. You love that. Why? Because it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't challenge your faults. It doesn't challenge your imperfections. It doesn't challenge you to be better. It doesn't say, honey, you could be a little bit more budget-minded. Or honey, you could make better choices. Or honey, maybe we have to sit down and think what to do about that child that's not listening to us and doing whatever he or she wants. So the Rachel is the perfect, but it's barren. Rachel doesn't have children. There's no birth. There's no birthing pains. There's no rebirth. It's the Leah that has the children. It's the Leah that gives birth, because Leah allows us to be reborn and redefine ourselves and analyze ourselves and grow within ourselves. So of course we hate Leah. We know what he likes, to be put on the hot seat. So this is what the Alter Rebbe, based on Kabbalah, is saying. That we get married and we marry a Rachel, but we also marry a Leah. But also one more point, not always everyone marries a Leah. Some people never want to have that deeper dimension in their relationships, in their marriage. They fear it so much, they'll never have a Leah in their lives. But I think most of us do have a Leah in our lives, and a Rachel. Because I think that's like more, but I can't define your life, but I'm just saying, I think all of us have a Rachel and a Leah. And that's why, who gets buried with Jacob in the Ma'oret HaMachpelah in Hebron? Which wife? Leah. She gets buried underground near Jacob. They were buried underground. Jews bury underground. Who gets buried above ground in the tomb of Rachel, separate from her husband? Rachel. Because Rachel is the revealed world, the Kabbalah says. So she's buried above ground in a tomb. Leah is the concealed world. She's buried underground with her husband. Again, emphasizing the relationship in the universe. So it follows through and through. You see?
When you learn this, didn't it just blow your mind?
Yes. Yes, that's why I try to share things that I find. This to me is like unbelievable. Even if you take it on a superficial level, that each one of us marries a Rachel and Leah, isn't it true? Right? You marry Rachel, you wake up with Leah. Oh, really? My husband had a pot belly, never noticed it when he was working out. He had a head full of hair when I married him. What happened? He's bald. I went for the summer to visit my son. He was in a adult education camp, and there was a Satmar lady swimming in the pool there, separate swimming, and she was dressed very modest in a shrimkleid, which means a dress from head to toe in the pool. And I love talking to other Hasidim. I learned so much from other Hasidic sects. And I said to her, is it true you don't drive? Women are not allowed to drive. And she said, yes. And then I said, she was telling me a little bit about her life. And she said that her husband was complaining to her that the children are ripping his holy books that are on the bookshelves. And he's not happy about it. So she says to him, guess what? I'm not happy about my waistline from the 10 kids either. Her growing waistline. He was complaining the kids are ripping the books. And she says, and the kids are ripping my waistline. Well, she made like a joke to her husband. So I was just thinking about it, that, yeah, you're complaining about Leah. I'm complaining about you. So that was an interesting tidbit. So to sum up is that we all have, first of all, the subconscious, very powerful, but also you look in your life, you have to appreciate the Leah in your life. Sometimes we tend to look and think, Why do I need a Leah in my life? Because that gives you the greatest growth. That challenges you to be better and rise higher. Of course, much more comfortable to be always a Rachel.